the Three Peaks Cyclo-Cross. There's so much to know. There's so much detail. I've been riding it since 1995. I'm still obsessed by it. So join me on an A to Z of the Three Peaks Cyclo-Cross.
A is for arms. Arms to pull you up Simon Fell, grabbing at the tufts of grass, grabbing at the fence on your left, pulling you over RAWNSLEY's leap. Arms for braking. Arms that are too tired to brake coming down PENYGHENT. B is for bike. Right up till the 1980s, people were free to pretty much use whatever bike they wanted. And then when mountain bikes came along, some people thought, hang on a minute, I can get down here faster and easier on this bike. And they'd take a bike at the summit. Sometimes people would take a bike on the road. John Rawnsley, in his wisdom, took control of all this. It's a cyclo-cross race and we ride cyclo-cross bikes. Cold Coates, an otherwise tiny, very quiet hamlet as you come off the first peak of Ingleborough. Cold Coates is a very special place for me. There's a certain loneliness to the descent of Ingleborough. Every rider for themselves, and there's something really great about seeing human life again and people that you want to see. The anticipation, of course, for the spectators, whether the person you've come to support is still okay. It's a special place. When you hit the tarmac and you feel everything ease for a few seconds, you can freewheel downhill. Descents, to be able to handle a bike, to preserve the bike and to keep it all in one piece and to keep you intact is a really crucial part of the race. It's fascinating to see how some riders can really consolidate and make the most of the descents. Of course it can go the other way. One slip, one missed line and it's a puncture or a crash can cost you so much time. E is for elevation. The altitude of the three peaks relative to their near neighbours in the Lake District is pretty modest. At 736 metres, Whernside, which is the highest point, would only rank as 68th highest peak in the Lake District. Even the roughly 5,500 feet or 1,700 metres of climbing would make it not the most hideous and hilly road ride. But of course this all comes into a very compacted 19 miles, and the climbing and descending, as we know, is hideous in places. Even on foot, it's a hilly race. Food. It's a long race and it requires nutrition. We've all learnt a lot about nutrition as cyclists, particularly in recent years, but it's still so easy to get things wrong on a race like this. It's largely down to the fact that there are really only two places you can take on food: at the foot of the Ingleborough descent and at Ribble Head following the descent from Whernside. And take on food we do. We'll shove the food down our mouths while it's possible to eat on the two road sections. You need to finish the drinks and food that you've got before you start the next climb, because otherwise it just sits in the side of your mouth and doesn't go anywhere. So you take on your bananas, your gels, your malt loaf, your jelly babies, whatever you like, as long as you can get it in your mouth. And of course at the finish you take on food as well. GILL GARTH. Not even a hamlet, just a tiny name on a map where we turn off the neutralised section and the race proper begins. It's an awful feeling and it's a beautiful feeling at the same time. Every year I seem to blow up on the initial climb before we've even gone through the farm buildings. You just can't get your head around how fast everyone's going, and the race is only just beginning. H is for HELWITH Bridge. Small quarrying community, barely on the map. The last Sunday, every September, it becomes the centre of the British cyclo-cross world, just for a few short hours. The HELWITH Bridge Inn, buzzing afterwards. A festival of storytelling. The bunkhouse, people comparing times, wounds, and their day. Horton in Ribblesdale also begins with H, and that was the original start and finish. Still a large focal point of the race. I is of course for Ingleborough. Ingleborough is the first mountain. Your legs are at their freshest, but it's the hardest climb. An incredibly difficult hill to get any kind of momentum over, whether you're running, walking or riding, and you never stay on the bike for too long when you are riding. The old fort, it's an Iron Age hill fort over the top, means there's a lot of lying stone around as well, and even the summit, which is pretty much pan flat, can be dreadful to try and get across even on foot, especially in stiff cycling shoes. It's a tough old hill. J is for JEBB, for Rob JEBB, an absolute legend of the race. You shouldn't really single people out. It's hard not to with someone who's won it 13 times. Rob is from a fell running background, but is a very accomplished cyclist. K is for kit. You never normally have to overthink what kit you're going to wear on a bike ride or a race of this type. The weather can turn so quickly though on the hills. It's also one of those events that starts fairly early in the day. Do you dress for the descents? Do you dress for the climbs? What do you take out as spares? It's hard to get it right. L is for ladies. Forgive me for using that term. Women came along to the race fairly late in its history. In 1979, Brenda Atkinson became the first female finisher. Thankfully, the numbers have grown a lot since then, and we've had over 60 starters some years, and it's growing all the time. It's great to see the mother-son and mother-daughter prizes occasionally being contested. M is for marshals. I doubt that people taking part in the first Three Peaks back in the 1960s could really foresee how much the race was going to grow and how roughly 200 people on the day would help roughly 400 people to compete and finish in the race. It's an incredible feat. They really do make the race. N is for National Park. Yorkshire Dales came to being in 1954, and it's a precious protected part of our landscape, and really these days it's hard to see that someone coming up with an idea like the Three Peaks would ever get away with it. It's an amazing privilege to be able to ride and to carry our bikes over the summits that we do. It's real proper mountain biking. O is for ORRELL. I was struggling a bit with O. Neil ORRELL, a Lancastrian, I think, competed in more events than anybody else, just pipping John RAWNSLEY, and still has the record for the number of completions that will stand for some time yet. P is for PENYGHENT, the most rideable of the Three Peaks, the easiest descent of the Three Peaks too, but it always happens on tired arms and tired riders. It's two-way traffic for most of the descent and the climb, so there's also that added bit of jeopardy, and quite a few dreams have been shattered on PENYGHENT too. Riders doing really well, including last year's event, the 2024 one, when Jensen Young was set to take the race victory on his first attempt. It's also where a lot of riders will puncture because it's a relatively easy descent. It's easy to go a little bit too fast too, and there are sharp rocks, and you're near the finish but you're not at the finish. Q is for quick release. Sorry about this, it's the alphabet. Everybody seems to have problems at some stage in the Three Peaks, and dealing with them is just part of it. So getting off and removing your wheel, fixing things in the side of the trail is part of what we have to deal with sometimes, and we hope to never have to. R is for RAWNSLEY. Whether you make the Three Peaks the pinnacle of your season, or whether it's just your motivation to get fit for the start of the cross season, the end of September would not be the same place in this country if John hadn't had the capability to get this race going on an annual basis and to remain there through some tough times for the first 50 years. An absolute legend. S is for Simon Fell. Interminable grassy bank that just gets steeper and steeper, and I think that's the trick of why it's so special. Your speed just gradually ebbs away as you climb from the GILL farm up onto the side of the fell. You go up through your gears until there are none left, and you get off your bike and you run until you can't run, and then you walk and you just feel like it's not going to end. You also kind of get an idea, if you've done it a few times, about whether you're on a good day or a bad day, or maybe it's just in your head. Maybe you just think you should be able to keep in touch with someone a few meters ahead of you, but closing a 4-meter gap onto a walker ahead of you can feel like it's going to take forever. It's the most incredibly hard climb that you can imagine. T is for tyres, and also for tubeless, and for tubulars, and for Tuffo, who made a great tubular tyre for a number of years that was brilliant for this race. It was really tough side walls, and then tubeless came along, and it's been a revolution. It's not solved the problem, but we seem to get our tyres better every year, but you can never be confident in them for this race. U is for unique, and also for unorthodox. It's a special race, it's different. It is a cyclocross race, but it's not like a cyclocross race, and the cyclocross bikes only rule makes it tough. And it was Paul Oldham who said you were never on the right bike. It's incredibly hard on the legs to be swapping between such long climbing off the bike ascents, whether you're walking or running, and then suddenly have to engage your pedaling and descending mode. The bike prep itself is also pretty unique. You'll do some strange things to the bike to make it work for the peaks, whether that's getting exactly the right gears or whether you're going to experiment with bar top brake levers. It'll always be different. V is for veterans. In the men's race, it's hard to remember a time and where there wasn't a veteran in the top 5. In fact, in the last few years, veterans have taken the top spot. It seems to be as an endurance event where experience counts, that there's some sort of edge to having a few more years of seniority. W is for Whernside. Whale back of a mountain that we have to climb and descend when we're starting to get tired. I think cramp is quite common towards the top of Whernside. It's where it starts to kick in for a lot of riders. The type of climbing that it is, just step after step after step, starts to really bite by the time you need to remount your bike at the top. It becomes rideable over the summit ridge, whether you're just slightly climbing or slightly descending, and there's a joy that starts to kick in that's way too premature, because the descent suddenly then starts to bite, and you're on and off the bike, and you're trying to prevent punctures, and you're trying to pick the best lines, and suddenly it becomes really nasty until you're a little bit below the Blee Moor style, and you can start to pick up a bit of riding momentum again for the final part of the descent, and the lovely feeling that you get when you come down towards the Ribblehead Viaduct. X is for X-ray, which I've only had to have once following a broken collarbone in the Three Peaks. It's also for Planet X. Can't really think of many other X's. Y is for young. So we spoke a little bit about veterans before. Young riders are not there in very high numbers in the Three Peaks. It's quite an undertaking. It's quite tough and scary to be isolated with a mechanical problem out in the middle of those hills. But particularly in the 80s and 90s, I know that a lot of riders did it as a sort of rite of passage, and there was never any doubt of that a good cross rider like Nick Craig or Tim Gould would ride the Three Peaks as soon as they were old enough, and ride it they did. Less so today, but we are seeing some good motivation coming through again in some of the younger riders. Z is for I don't know. Can't really think of a Z. ZEPNAT, one of the teams that grew from the original ACE-RT teams from the East Midlands. I'll have to do ZEPNAT.